Welcome to FEO on the Air, the voice of the festivals and events industry in Ontario. This week, it's Experience Ontario with your host, FEO CEO Dave MacNeil.
Hello and welcome to FEO on the Air. Today's edition is Experience Ontario, and no, we're not talking about grant funding. We're talking about enjoying all of the areas that Ontario has to offer, the beautiful landscapes, the beautiful cities, towns, regions, and everything we have to offer, the festivals going on in those regions, the attractions that you can add on and build to your stays. And today we're going to start with the North, Canada's beautiful North, Ontario's beautiful North. And we're happy to have with us David MacClachlan from Destination Northern Ontario. David, welcome to FEO on the Air and Experience Ontario. And I was wondering if you could give everybody your elevator speech for your area in the North.
Sure. I think a lot of people rediscovered Northern Ontario in terms of Ontario residents during the pandemic. And, we've seen a surge in tourism here. So since 2019, we're up 43% in terms of the tourism spend. And I'm sure people can appreciate it's a very large region. We're about 85% of provincial landmass, basically the size of Germany and France combined, and a lot of nature-based activities. So, we focus and do really well in terms of avid experiences. So, of course, angling and hunting and snowmobiling and ATVing and paddling and all that fun stuff. But we also do well with a general leisure visitor in terms of our iconic scenery and our attractions, and of course festivals and events across the region. We're a bit of a hike to get to, so generally if people are coming to do something in the north, they're staying for a few days, and we get a little extra economic boost from that, and tourism very important to the Northern Ontario economy.
And David, for those of us in the industry, your area is defined as RTO 13, A and B. What are the boundaries for your area? Like, what would you consider Northern Ontario, Destination Northern Ontario?
So pretty much from the French River north, including Manitoulin Island, and then moving west from Mattawa and the Ottawa River in the east, right through to the Manitoba border and up to the saltwater coast of James Bay and Hudson's Bay. So I think it's about 22 hours to drive from Mattawa to the Manitoba border.
And from Southern Ontario to get to Mattawa is about 5 hours anyway, right? So I mean,
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
for
when
sure.
when those in the south talk about going up north for the weekend, we're not talking about Bracebridge and Huntsville aren't what you would consider the north.
No, we're just a little further, but to get there, gateways like North Bay and even Sudbury now with the twinning of Highway 69, we're just a little over 3 hours from from the GTA to get into the region.
So David, I want to get back to you. We've got Marnie Lapierre from Northern Events and Consulting, Tourism Consulting, on the line to talk about three primary festivals up in that area. I know she's got some timeline issues. So, Marnie, welcome. Marnie's also a vice president of FEO and hosts her own podcast once a month talking about festivals, helping festivals, sharing our stories. Welcome, Marnie. Talk about the festivals that you've decided to highlight for this podcast.
There's so much going on in Northern Ontario. It was really hard to pick. So I'm going to be a little selfish. I'm going to talk about the one that is near and dear to my heart, which is the Timmins Multicultural Festival. We are entering our 53rd year, and we've had some amazing partnerships with the municipality, with our sponsors, with volunteers in the community. We have almost 40 different nationalities represented at this festival that each one operates their own booth. They offer food for tasting samples of different culinary experiences from across the globe. A lot of the entertainment is also locally sourced. So we have presentations from the Filipino community, the India community, our Indigenous friends here in the community as well. There's so much that happens that we expanded it to a 2-day. For years, decades, it was one day. And one of the things that came back from our surveys that we were putting out was the attendees wanted more engagement with the organization. So we created, it's the first day now on the Saturday, it's called Cultural Connections. And some of our membership presents and talks and engages with the audience. It's like an open forum. And they talk about their experiences as becoming new Canadians. They also talk about having been here as long as they have, because some, are like, original settler families. And they talk about the traditions that they bring in, and it's a really great, engaging experience. We've had a blast doing it, and we're continuing with that again. And I'm not going to lie, part of the motivation, aside from reconciliation and opening these dialogues, has we were also motivated by funding, because Experience Ontario has a mandate that you have to be a multi-day event. And because we were growing as a group, because we went from having 12 different representations to the 40, that our space has enlarged, our costs have enlarged. So we're, looking beyond just the community support. So, it was kind of a marriage made in heaven to create this other day and this other opportunity. And we're able to showcase other parts of the community as well, by having that first day now being at different cultural locations, because we have a number of halls that are led by some of our groups here. So we have the Croatian Hall, the Porcupine Dante Club, which is our Italian group, and a number of other places as well. So, it's definitely tied in very nicely. So it's been a great experience. I've been the president and the festival chair for, this is my third year. And, we've seen such great growth and new structure within the group that it really makes it shine. It's one of the oldest events in our community, and it's just been absolutely stellar. So that's the first one.
And the dates on that again, Marnie, or?
That will be May 24th and 25th. May 24th will be at the Timmins Museum, and May 25th will be at the McIntyre Arena.
Great. And next on your list?
Oh boy, another one on my list. It's kind of a bit of a sad story, but it's also a good story. Um, Thunder Bay has this wonderful event called Folklore, and Folklore has been ongoing for a long time. It also has the same premise as ours, but it's more of a performance event. And they've taken the wise decision to step back for a year, to regroup, refocus, a lot, much like what a lot of us did during the pandemic shutdowns, was to kind of restructure what we were doing, dust off the old policies, and rebuild and refresh their opportunity there. And it has gone on for a long time. It's had great community support, as well as federal, provincial. They've had some amazing volunteers help out with it, and almost all of their cultural community participates in this. And it draws in from all over, even from the States, because Thunder Bay is wonderfully situated near the border. So they get a lot of people coming in, and with the travel up from Southern Ontario, they get it very well attended. So they're taking a break this year, but I think that's very wise. I know a number of organizations are doing that now, because the economy has changed. What we are experiencing as festival organizers, the expenses are skyrocketing. Suppliers been a bit of a challenge, because they also went through their own envelope of issues during the pandemic, and lost a lot of employees to other industries. So it's, we're all fighting for the same stage light and sound guys and all the rest of that. So, I take that as a good story, because I cannot wait to see what they're going to bring forward for the next event. And, it is a scary time, but I think it's also a really good example of not giving up, and rebranding, restructuring, and seeing what new opportunities can be presented for a festival of that size.
And your third city?
Oh, it's not a city, it's a little wee community, and it's called New Liskard. And they have a wonderful festival that happens in the wintertime. And I know everybody's like, oh, winter in Northern Ontario. This is where you want to go. It's called Village Noel. And a group within the community got together and said, you know what, we need to do something. Everybody loves Christmas, all the sounds, lights, and whistles that come with it. So what they did is they created these little kiosks, these little booths that look like little gingerbread houses. And the participants that are in these booths are not-for-profit agencies, cultural agencies, vendors that are local and have wonderful products to sell that promote the area and are relevant to it. It's not a place where you're going to see an MLM marketer. It is somebody like Devil's Rock Tackle Company, which is a local person that creates fishing lures that can be branded for any purpose whatsoever. You've got naturopathic people there that bring in things like using candula candles and creams and things like that are all sourced locally, but it all has the Christmas vibe. It's absolutely beautiful. And
And
that's one of
what's the
my
time?
favorites.
What do you know the dates on that this year? I know
I,
Jay's got it up in her chat for those
I'm
interested.
not aware yet of what the date is, but it's usually early December so that people can go and purchase their locally sourced items in time for the holidays.
Perfect. Thank you, Marnie. We appreciate you stopping at the side of the road as you travel on to your next location there. And we look forward to hearing more from you as time travels on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
David,
having me.
David, we're going to go back to you and fill in some of the other areas that we talked about. Certainly, anybody looking for events in the north can go on our website, Festival Events Ontario, and do searches in the different regions, the different time zones, uh, different times of year, and find out what's happening in all of those locations. But there's Sault Ste. Marie, there's Sudbury. Dave, do you have some events that are top of mind to you as you go about your business in the north?
Well, certainly a lot of events in the summer, and I'm sure it's the same around the province, revolve around live music and music festivals. So Thunder Bay does a great job, as do the folks out in Kenora. And then I'm based in Sault Ste. Marie, and of course Bonsu is a big winter carnival here locally held in February. And I think this year, for the first time in a few years, they had lots of snow, which has been a challenge in some of those mild winters. But certainly, no shortages of festivals and events right across the region, or all throughout out the year. And again, our research shows that festivals and events certainly drive visitation, and because the distances are vast, a lot of our festivals and events here in Northern Ontario, we have people coming and staying there. They're multi-day events, and driving overnight stays as well.
And talking about overnight stays, David, I know our friends at Resorts Ontario would be a good resource to us, but you've got all kinds of options in the north. Whether it's hotels, motels, Airbnbs, cabins, cottages, camping. Can you talk about where people would find accommodation as they look to plan a trip north to a festival or event?
Yeah, so certainly, as you suggested, the FEO website for information on the various events, and then our local and regional destination partners will have a lot of that information around accommodations. We do experience, virtually 100% occupancy during the summer months, so booking ahead is always important. But we're finding that the short-term rentals, so the Verbos and the Airbnbs are helping fill the gap. But there's a few new hotels in development, and we could certainly use some more rooms during the summer. Winters tend to be a little leaner, lots of availability in the winter time, but summer always best to plan ahead.
And David, with everything going on south of the border, you talked about a good rebound from COVID. What's your experience so far of Americans coming into Canada and Canadians staying in Canada, or Ontario staying in the province? Have you got a sense of that yet? Or
Yeah, so I think we've all seen some of the numbers of Canadians canceling or not, bookings by air down 70% or more. I'm just in Niagara this morning, and Destination Canada presented some numbers both in terms of Canadians staying at home and then people coming here. What we're hearing from our partners is like over the course of the winter, as they were at trade shows and other events, that we're not seeing a softening in planned U.S. visits for this summer. We're expecting to have a very busy season. Most of the Americans, have been emailing or apologizing. So we're very hopeful that we're going to have a busy summer. Now, of course, if the economy turns south, that will impact it. And then the other thing that we're very nervous about is just making sure that we continue to be a welcoming destination for American visitors. And so we're just gearing up now to start some awareness campaigns in our communities to make sure that we continue to welcome those visitors. And then tensions can run a little high. Like if you're living in a community of 1,000 people, and the lumber mill is the major employer, and because of a 35% tariff, the lumber mill is looking at that laying off. It's important that we don't take that out on the visitors that are coming to spend money in our communities.
and David, you mentioned summer where you're at capacity or close to it. We all strive to become four-season destinations, and obviously the North has a lot to offer. And maybe a little bit more difficult getting around in the wintertime, but can you talk about the four-season opportunity in Northern Ontario?
Well, certainly, yeah, and especially when we have winter, and we had winter this year, the year before, not so much. So certainly, those winter activities, we did really well. So skiing, snowmobiling, snowshoeing, dog sledding, all sorts of things taking place outside, as well as a lot of winter events. Most communities have some form of winter carnival, and even ice fishing derbies, etc. So lots happening in the north, but you referenced that it can be hard to get around, and I remember one day this winter we had 22 road closures in northeastern Ontario, and I put on my Facebook, build winter tourism, they said, and that's the
Yeah.
difficulty that we have is when the weather goes bad, it's not the best conditions for driving for sure.
Well, thanks very much, David. We're going to bring in Troy Young now from Attractions Ontario. And as we all know, in the festival and events building, when you're applying for grants and stuff, and you're getting people into your events, it's keeping them in the areas and giving them other options of what to do, whether it's a place to stay or something else to build to their experience. Troy, welcome. And can you talk about Attractions Ontario and what you guys do?
Yeah, so very thanks, Dave, for having me here. Very much like you, we are a non-for-profit sector association that works with the attractions, of which I do have festival members because for us, yeah, a festival is definitely an attraction. I want to read to you what our actual definition is of an attraction because we have a very specific one. Tourist attraction is any site, activity, or experience that draws visitors for leisure, cultural, educational, recreational, or entertainment purposes. So your festivals would definitely qualify. Attractions can be natural, cultural, historical, recreational, or commercial, and serve as key motivators for travel, contributing to the economic and social function of a destination. So that's a really broad definition that can capture anything. Like most people wouldn't consider an Old Navy an attraction, but if I'm the Old Navy store in northern London that is pulling people from the surrounding countryside more than 40 kilometers away, suddenly that Old Navy store is definitely an attraction. So it's very weird, right? It's whatever is going to motivate somebody to get in their vehicle and travel that 40-kilometer radius that we have designated as tourism. So, yeah, the attractions, very much like festivals, are the lifeblood of tourism. They're what convinces you to get in your car or to get on a plane and go to a destination in the first place.
And
So
Troy, what's the rule of thumb again? Is it for every hour you drive, you should have 4 hours worth of activity? Is that generally the rule of thumb
we
we work
actually
by?
state for every hour you drive, there should be 2 hours of activity.
2 hours. Okay.
So most attractions on their own can really only draw from that 1 hour radius unless there's something very special about them. You might tap into somebody that really is passionate about trains, and you've got a train tour, so they might travel more than an hour to get to you. But for the most part, it's that. So that's why we always talk about really looking at the cluster. The attraction that's across the street is not your competition, they're your best friend, because combined, you give more hours of fun and leisure, which is going to increase how far people are going to travel to come and see you. And the more attractions you've got, the longer time you're going to be in market, which means you're going to probably stay the night. You're going to go to those restaurants. You're going to go to shopping. So yeah, the more you can build that cluster of attractions, the more likely you're going to be successful at tourism. So we always tell everybody, partner with your DMO, partner with your RTO, partner with the people across the street, because that's what's going to drive business through your door.
And you've hit the nail on the head. We often look at an attraction in town as not enemy, but that we're going against them. But we should really be, as you say, working with them to keep that tourist in town longer
Festivals
and
are
to add to their
great.
stay.
Festivals are great because, especially if it's a festival based around a theme, you might get people that are interested just in that theme. But also, because of the festival being date related, right? Now maybe I'm going to see an influx of visitors because of that festival. So I need to plan around it. Even if they're interested in coming to our destination where my attraction is, the festival might be the catalyst of the person choosing when they're going to come.
Right. So we talked about the Timmins, Thunder Bay, and New Liskeard area. Can you talk about some attractions in those areas off the top of your head, or where people would go to look for to build their experiences?
Well, I think the North has some of the best attractions going. I love it when I get to go to Northern Ontario. In Timmins, I'm only gonna talk about places that I have actually personally been to. So we did a board meeting years ago, and we all stayed at Cedar Meadows. It's a spa. There are a nature tour that they do at Cedar Meadows as well. We got to be up close to a moose, like feeding the moose. Now I don't think they have a moose anymore, but they do have bison and elk on the property. They do have a program where you get to sleep outside with wolves, which is phenomenal. But it's also a spa, with like hot tubs and saunas, pools, and other services on site. So I mean, if you're talking about Timmins and you're going to go up to that festival, you should probably want to stay at Cedar Meadows Park, because you've got all those other things as well as the accommodations. But we mentioned, I don't have anything for New Liskeard, unfortunately, but Thunder Bay, I mean, one of their anchor attractions in Thunder Bay is Fort William. Um, it draws from everywhere. It's a recreation of an old fur trading fort, and it is phenomenal. There's an indigenous experiences there. Again, I had a board meeting there. It seems like I've had a lot of board meetings at great attractions across the north. But other things there are like Kekabeka Falls, right? At the provincial park there is a place to stay. And if another thing that I consider an attraction for Thunder Bay are Persians. You need to go and have a couple Persians. If you don't know what they are, they're like this big donut thing with pink icing that are just phenomenal. So culinary can be your attraction too. Speaking of culinary, Sudbury is a hidden gem for that kind of stuff. Again, we've been there for board meetings. I would suggest, as far as attractions go, you've got Science North. If you're a fan of the Science Center in Toronto, you're going to be blown away by Science North. I think Science North, if I had to put the two head to head, no disrespect to the Science Center here in Toronto, but Science North just edges it out a little bit, along with Dynamic Earth, which is also run by them. And if you're going to be in the Sudbury area, go check out Dinosaur Valley Mini Golf, a longtime member of ours. Marcel is a genius with his dinosaur creations that he welds together. Definitely. But Sudbury's got quite the food scene too. Was really impressed with what they had. And like, I'm in downtown Toronto, so for us here, Barrie is Northern Ontario, it seems. I jokingly say that anything north of Highway 7 is the north, and I know that's not true, but we'll get into a car and drive to Ottawa without thinking, or drive down to Windsor. Sudbury's the same distance. I think we need to be getting over this barrier in our minds that the north is far away. It's not. You can be in Sudbury in 4.5 hours, and it is the gateway to the north, and it is a great spot. But I know I'm rambling on here, but one last thing. Oh, I want to mention, because David said Sault Ste. Marie, he's from Sault Ste. Marie. The Bush Plain Heritage Center in Sault Ste. Marie is phenomenal. Go check it out. But my absolute favorite tourism experience, and I've been here at Attractions Ontario 21 years now, my absolute favorite all-time tourism experience in this province was in Northern Ontario. We went up to Cochrane, we went and visited the polar bear habitat, and that is great. But the real trip, or the real part, was getting on the Polar Bear Express and getting up to Moosonee and Moose Factory and seeing those two communities. It was phenomenal. I blew me away. My absolute best tourism experience in this province.
Oh, thank you very much, Troy. David, back to you. We're gonna wrap things up here, but such a great area of the province. In closing, what would be your pitch to get people to book it in their calendars and make that trip, and start making it an annual or a semi-annual trip to experience Ontario's north?
Yeah, well, it's hard to beat Troy there. I was trying to keep up with the links in the chat. I think I owe you one more. Um, I think for people like, like there's a few destinations around the world that, people actually form an emotional bond with, and Northern Ontario was one. Once you come to the north, we know you'll be back. People are super friendly. Yes, it's a little bit of time, effort, and of course, money. But if I think I heard one of our First Nations elders, tell it best. Northern Ontario is a place where you come to bring balance back into your life. And certainly, we're not the East Coast, we're not the West Coast, but we're equally as spectacular. And anybody that comes to Northern Ontario, I know that you're going to have a good time. And again, there's just so much to see and do, so much nature. And I can't speak highly enough. Just make the effort, and you will be rewarded.
Yeah, I certainly can't think of a better place to reset than sitting on a rock on Lake Superior under a pine tree, just watching watching the waves crash in. Just such a vast and beautiful part of the province. So thanks very much, David.
Sorry, Darlene
And
mentioned in the chat Agua Canyon Tour Train. I also had a board meeting on that one year. Again, phenomenal. Great experience out of Sault Ste. Marie.
yeah, there's just so many things to do. And I was going to say Marnie's left us, but certainly for all of the events, check out Festival and Events Ontario website. They're all listed. You can certainly plan your stay and your visit. And Troy, over to you to wrap it up for Attractions Ontario. And while we're speaking of the North, but while you're planning any festival and event experience, um, don't forget about the attractions in the region. Talk to us about that again. And last plug.
Well, as I mentioned, there's so many great attractions. I mean, the outdoors is the North's premier attraction, but there's also a lot of built attractions up there too. And I mentioned, I think, the key ones like Science North and Fort William are two of the biggest draws for their respective cities. We also have a road trip planner. A bunch of your festivals are listed there. A bunch of the Feast On restaurants from Culinary Tourism are up there too. The resorts from Resorts of Ontario. We've kind of worked with all the different sector associations to populate that, plus our attractions. So if you are looking at getting up to Northern Ontario this year and you want to hop in your car, you can use the road trip planner to help plot your way there from wherever you are in the province. So I think that would be a good use. It's OntarioRoadTrips.ca if somebody wanted to throw that up into the chat. But yeah, so the attractions, I think you mentioned earlier, you asked David earlier about what we were seeing with the circumstances in the US. Like what David was saying, I agree with all of that. The one thing that I think the attractions can benefit from, even if we do have a bit of an economic downturn because of all this, is tourism may suffer, but my attractions might not. Simply because, as we saw from the pandemic, people still want to do stuff. They may not travel or they may not go as far away, but they will still look to do those attractions at home. So we might not see people staying in hotels. They may do that 1 hour drive to go do that 2 hour activity. So I think as far as anybody in the sector goes, the attractions are probably positioned to weather it the most because it will shift more to local and close tourism for them. So I think our members at Attractions Ontario should do okay. We tend to be more affected by weather than anything else.
Right. And then I'm hesitant to say it, but I just got back from 10 days in Las Vegas. And to a person, we weren't afraid to say we were Canadian. We were proud to say we were Canadian. But to a person, everyone we talked to, the first thing out of their mouth was an apology. That's not how we think of Canadians. We're sorry about what our leader is putting you through, and that's not our. And that was to a person. We didn't run in, and we came across a lot of people. We didn't run into one, oh, you guys are ripping us off and have ripped us off for years. It was all apologies. So
We
so
may
yeah, and I
see,
think what David said is right. We have to have those welcoming arms
yeah, yeah,
because
we may see
it's
an
not everyone.
increase of sympathetic Americans coming north to Canada this year. So
Well, and I'll tell you what, for the sympathetic American coming north, they're certainly getting a bang for their buck because they're getting about 40 extra cents on their dollar as they come across the border. So yeah. Um, Again, thank you, Troy. Thank you, David, and thank you, Marnie. If anybody's thinking about or they haven't planned their summer or fall trips yet, now's the time to do it. We've got all kinds of resources listed in the chat. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, David, and thank you, Troy, for listing those. Certainly look on all of our websites as you get ready to plan your trips for the summer and your festival season. We invite you all to join us next week on FEO on the Air. We're back to our master class, and we're going to have Henry Reese from Reese Informatica join us. And then his topic is going to be keeping your business safe in 2025. And it's a simple approach that works. As we roll into 2025, Enrique will share a straightforward way to protect your business in today's ever-changing world, a new way to think about IT and database security. Until next week, I'm Dave MacNeil for FEO on the Air.
Thanks for listening to FEO on the Air, the voice of festivals and events in Ontario.